Welcome back to CryptosRus. I am George. We're all George. The US market is opening up deep in the red. You can see Dow is minus 400, NASDAQ minus around 200. And this is because the CPI report came out for January. And it showed, this was expected that inflation would go up, but it went up higher than expected. It was supposed to go up 0.3%. It went up 0.5%. So now our CPI reading is at 3%. It's been slowly going up from our low of 2.4 in September and ticking up, and now it's at a full 3. Now, if you look at the core inflation, it has stayed the same at 3.3%, so that's good if you discount food and energy, but of course, you can't really do that. Food is important, and food prices have been going up quite a lot. Eggs, a carton of eggs have gone up quite a bit, and many other things as well, right? Now, why markets are scared of this is because with inflation going up, usually, when inflation goes up, what Powell has to do, Fed Chair Powell, is he has to raise interest rates, okay? Raise the Fed fund rate to basically try to get this down. Why that works is if you raise interest rate or the Fed fund rate, it raises all these rates, and then it makes people and businesses more broke, essentially. And when people are broke, they can't spend. And if they can't spend and buy things, then naturally, price of goods, in theory, should come down. But what happens when people are already broke and inflation is going upwards? Then you're stuck between a rock and hard place, because you can't raise the Fed fund rate. You're expected to lower it because people are already broke, yet inflation is still climbing. So what are you going to do? See, this is like the worst case scenario for Powell, which is why I have that thumbnail. Powell can only do one or two things. He could raise the rate or he could cut the rate. Okay? Right now, he's under a lot of pressure to cut the rate. Everyone wants him to cut the rate. Trump wants him to cut. Even Elizabeth Warren told him to cut. Everyone is telling him to cut the rate. But he's like, no, we can't do that yet. We gotta look at inflation, But now that inflation is going upwards, that's less reason for him to cut. It's actually giving him reason to hike it. And that's not what we want. That's horrible. Horrible. But this is good. Look at Bitcoin is coming up. Remember, Bitcoin is supposed to be a hedge against inflation. And it is. The reason why this happened is because of Wall Street once again. Wall Street and their stupid overreaction. It happens every single time. What do? They panic dump on anything that is scary. Okay? So this is not a true reflection of what Bitcoin represents or is. This is just traders that is scared of short-term outcome, okay? But why we load up on Bitcoin is essentially what I'm talking about. Inflation will never stop. There will always be reasons for inflation. And you have this one guy, Fed Chair Powell, or whoever, his successors, whoever after him, will always try to figure out ways to curb inflation. But inflation goes beyond just people spending, consumer spending. What about irresponsible printing and spending of governments, which will never stop that will always be a thing. So we're getting into this point where it's kind of iffy. What are we going to do? And are these new tariffs, are they going to cause inflation to go up? Because if you're taxing everything that's coming in, and not every good could be produced in the US right away, that means everything's going to get more expensive in the near term. And that means essentially inflation is going to go up. So if inflation goes up, what is Powell going to do about it? Essentially nothing. He can't do anything about it because he can't raise the rate. If he does, it's going to collapse the US economy even more. So this is the worst case scenario for him. He had it good before. When we had elevated inflation, the Fed fund rate was high. We were at like 10%. He was able to cut all the way down. But now that inflation is down and climbing back up again, he can't hike he can't hike the rate because the rate is still high. We didn't come back down to 0% rate yet. We're still at our elevated rate. So it's a conundrum. He's going to have a really tough time going forward, especially if all these CPI readings every single month continues to show inflation ticking upwards. If by, let's say, May or June, we're back to 5% inflation, then what is he going to do? I really don't know. I really don't know what happens then. Hopefully by then, more and more people will recognize, and institutions will recognize, that there's nothing that he can do, and that's why you need to load up on Bitcoin. That's it. Here's something else. This same pattern that we're going through right now, even though it looks very unique, has been repeated before, over and over again, just at different levels. In 2021, we saw the same kind of pattern, this diamond pattern that happened before we shot up to the next leg. So whenever you think we're in a new situation, whenever you think we're in a new pattern or a new FUD, yeah, we have seen it before. And Bitcoin does not care. And Bitcoin will move past it. That's just how it works. I mean, come on. We're at 95,000. People are getting depressed at 95,000 Bitcoin. Have we seen 95,000 Bitcoin in previous cycles? Have we seen 95,000 Bitcoin in 2021 or 2017 or 2013? Are we talking about the same thing here? Are we talking about Bitcoin has lost 4 years of gains or 7 years of gains or 12 years of gains? No. We're talking about Bitcoin retracing down a few thousand points from its highs, and we're back to November levels. That's it. We're not talking about going back to 2021 levels. Look at 2021 levels. We started out 2021 sub 20,000, and we're at 95,000. What are people complaining about? Go check out altcoins. Go check out what Cardano was or XRP was at that time, December and January 2021. And tell me where it was and tell me where it is now. And tell me how you could be complaining. Tell me where Sol was at that time. Tell me where all the altcoins were at that time. They're like a tenth of where they are now. So just think about that. Put things in perspective if you're feeling down.